You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast, where you'll learn step-by-step how to meet and seduce beautiful women, whether you're looking for one night of fun, a week-long fling, or a long-term relationship. I'm your host, Trip, and the episode starts now. What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the How to Talk to Girls podcast. I'm your host, Trip Kramer from tripadvice.com. We're going to be going over something that I feel is really crucial because it's something that I get asked a lot. Everywhere. On Instagram, I get it asked a lot with my coaching clients. I get it asked a lot in emails. Guys really wanting to know what the heck is going on when you think everything is going really well with a chick and you end up going out with her maybe on a date or two. Maybe you even end up getting her number and you think everything went well. Then you text her to ask for a date and you don't get a response. Maybe she ghosted you. What's going on here? We're going to dive into it and go over the whole idea. I want to do something really quickly. I've done this a few times already. I want to do it again. I want to call out one of my current coaching clients. And by the way, this is a positive thing. Not calling him out on something negative, but calling him out on something that went really well. Okay, so I want to, and I'm doing this to really give you encouragement because a lot of guys who listen to this podcast and are trying to get better at meeting and dating women, I want to motivate you and tell you that results are possible for you. Okay, so I've been working with this guy and he has some bad approach anxiety and he's just not sure what to do. He's just very lost when it comes to what to say to a girl and how to flirt with them and how to take it to the next level. And something really cool happened with him that I want to share with you that made him learn a huge lesson. And I want you to learn this lesson as well. Okay. So basically what happened is we had him go to a few parties because he's invited to a few parties every couple of weeks because he's part of this social group. And he got invited to a few parties. And I said to him, okay, so now that you're invited to these parties, what I want you to do is I want you to just be social with everyone. Okay. Don't have a plan. Don't have, any kind of outcome dependence. Just go and talk to as many people as you can and let's just see what happens. And he said, okay. So he went to this party and he told me he goes to this party and he starts talking to a lot of people and he's just being social, just trying to have a good time. What ended up happening was one of the people he ended up talking to was a girl who then had a lot of interest in him. Now, here's the thing. Here's what to learn here. Is that it is a little bit of a numbers game. And when you finally put yourself out there, you might get someone who bites, right? You might get someone who bites, which means that you might end up getting someone who's interested in you just for the plain fact of going over and talking to them. And I don't think that a lot of guys really realize that. They think that there has to be a lot of really good flirting and conversation. Sometimes you're just going to run into a girl, a woman who is just interested in you because she just is. She's attracted to you. You guys are having some conversation. And it's crazy that it's nothing that you have to necessarily do. It's just you're being yourself, you're being you. But what you did was you put yourself out there. Now, of course, this doesn't work every time, but I'm just saying that it does happen quite a bit. Is sometimes you just need to put yourself out there enough and something bites. That was one lesson. Well, here's another lesson that he learned, okay? Another lesson that he learned, which is what we went over in our coaching calls, is that he didn't know what to do. He's like, okay, I can tell this girl was interested in me. She's laughing at all my stuff. She's finding me multiple times throughout the party. But, I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't know how to move the interaction forward. So that's, what I told him and what I taught him on the call was, okay, when she's interested in you, you got to make sure that you are escalating. Okay. Now that can be either physically escalating or it can be verbally escalating, meaning you got to flirt back and you got to eventually get her number or isolate her to a spot where you guys can connect more. So if you're at a party, maybe it's the corner of the room, maybe it's just somewhere else where you guys are, maybe it's a bar, maybe it's somewhere where it's quieter where you guys can connect. Maybe you end up leaving the party together and you end up taking her home or going to get something to eat. So you're going to be further escalating by having more alone time with her. And if that's not a possibility, you get her number. And also what I would say is that you should flirt with her by saying to her, hey, listen, let's go on a date sometime. Now, I'll be very clear here. It's not going to be exactly like that. Every situation is going to be different, but that's the idea, is that you can ask her to go on a date with you, grab her number and say, hey, let's hang out sometime. Let's go grab a drink sometime. You can use the word date if you want to. You don't necessarily have to, but it's going to be somewhat implied. Okay. So you're going to be asking her out. That's moving it forward. That's moving it forward. A lot of guys, they really get scared to pull the trigger. But you know what is really worse than rejection? Because that's what guys are scared of. What's worse than that is when you go home and you realize, oh my gosh, this girl liked me. Everything was going great and I didn't do anything about it. That's the killer. And trust me when I say, that is way more painful, extremely more painful to go through that process than to go through the rejection process. Because, rejection stings, but you're going to be going home thinking, well, I went for it. There's nothing else I could do. I did everything I could possibly do. So really, really, please, I want to teach you this lesson, which I taught my client, is that try to escalate, try to move things forward and see what happens. Okay. Now, again, with him, what ended up happening, this is kind of interesting here, is he ended up getting her number. I don't know if he already had her number because it was in a group text or something like that, because he's part of this social club. But either way, he ended up getting her number. He had her number somehow. And we had him write a text message. I told him exactly what to say to get her to start talking, to then eventually meet up with her on a date. Now, this ties into our topic of the week, right? Because what ended up happening was she responded, but she responded days later, and she didn't seem very interested over text to meet up with him. She basically said, oh, I can't, sorry, maybe another time, or something where it's very clear that she wasn't interested. So now you might be thinking, Trip, you were saying earlier that it seems like she was interested. And you were saying earlier that it seems like she was really interested, but now she's not responding to a date over text. So clearly she wasn't interested. Now, of course, I don't know for sure, but from the details I heard from my client is that she was interested. She was showing the signs. But I think what happened was maybe towards the end of the night, because he wasn't embodying more of a masculine presence. What's that? A person who is taking control, acting confident, someone who is leading, right? I talk about this in my Hooked program a lot, dominance, right? You got to be leading the interaction. And he did it so much later that maybe she saw that, you know what? This person is not really embodying the masculine traits that attract me. So therefore, I'm going to say no. That's my theory. And that's kind of something I want to be teaching you today, right? Is that sometimes it can seem like it's going well. It can seem like it's going well, but then it doesn't, because maybe you flub at the end. Maybe you didn't pull the trigger fast enough, because that is something that a lot of guys don't do. Maybe she's now dating someone else. Maybe she met someone else that night also who pulled the trigger faster. It's a little bit of a numbers game here, and a little bit of a game in terms of going a little bit faster. Okay, sometimes you got to be up to speed here, because he didn't text her for a few days after that party. So this is a big lesson here. I want to interrupt really quickly, because I know some guys have been interested in getting coaching from me. So if you want to be a client as well, there's just a really small application process, nothing crazy. All you got to do is go to coachedbytrip.com. Coachedbytrip.com is the website where you can apply, and you just got to fill out an application. And if I like the application, if it seems like you are really interested in doing coaching and you fill it out really nice and full, then I will reach out to you via text, or I will reach out to you on email. Okay, so go ahead and fill that out at coachedbytrip.com if you want help, where I'm holding your hand through the whole process, telling you exactly what to do, telling you exactly where to go out, how to meet women. I'll even write text messages for you with the women that you meet, just like I did with this client. If you want that help so you can get faster results, apply today at coachedbytrip.com. Okay, so again, back to what I was saying here is sometimes you're going to be in a situation where it seems like everything went well and then it didn't. So first off, you got to have this mindset that's really important, okay? This is a mindset that I tell my clients, and this, by the way, is a life lesson here. So this goes with really anything. And that life lesson is nothing is until it is. Okay. That's the mindset. Then if you have that mindset, you're never going to be disappointed. A lot of guys are like, oh my God, I got her number and everything was going great. And then she never texted me back and I never heard from her again. Well, understanding that the goal here is not to get her number. It's not to receive a text back. It's to get her in front of you and go on a date. And even that's not the goal. The goal eventually is to connect on that date, make the connection, and then also on top of that is have sex, right? It's not about you just going out and making friends with girls. No, I'm not trying to be superficial here and saying like, yeah, it's all about banging girls. Like, no, but it is about making a romantic connection and having sex. So it's kind of twofold, right? Is you're making that romantic connection with the girl and also it's a sexual connection because you can't have just one of those or else it's just this weird friendship, okay? Now, obviously, that goes without saying with people who are waiting for marriage for sex or people who are really religious. That's the exception. There are people out there who will make a romantic connection with someone else who's also waiting to have sex. So that's the exception. But for everyone else, it is about those two things, right? It's those two things that you want to get to. So understand that nothing is till it is. But also, I know this is kind of complicated, but don't be outcome dependent where you're like, oh man, like now it sucks because it didn't happen. Like try to enjoy the journey a little bit here, right? Try to enjoy the process of meeting someone and interacting with them, but also understand that you can't get too excited when you get a number. Okay, you've got to balance this whole idea. You can't get too excited when you get a number because a number doesn't mean anything. She might not text you back. And even if she does text you back, you might not end up on a date. So you got to have just realistic expectations here that you don't know what's going to happen, but try to enjoy the process as you're doing it. Again, understand that nothing is until it is. And in this case, in the dating process, in the courtship process, what is you guys romantically connecting. Now that could happen when you first meet her, right? You could end up kissing, maybe taking her home that night. You guys can have this, whole romantic situation where you guys just first met. That happens sometimes. Most of the time it doesn't happen. These days, well, not any days really, it's going to be more of you flirt with the girl, maybe you kiss, and then you end up getting her number and then you go on a date. But again, nothing is till it is. So don't be so excited that you got a phone number. Like, just be neutral about it. Cool. I got a phone number. Cool. This all happened. Cool. I'm moving through the whole process. Cool. I'm going to meet some other girls because I'm not going to just wait for this one. I'm going to be more abundant. I'm going to be more in the abundant mindset, right? Getting multiple numbers. Some will work out, some won't. Cool, cool, cool. Trying to look at it in a more calm, neutral way and enjoying the process. Almost like this Buddhist mentality, right? It's like just going at it and not being attached to any outcome, being more present and being more excited about the journey than what the outcome actually is. So why didn't she text back? Well, it's hard to know for sure. There are a lot of different reasons. Like I said, it's possible that you weren't leading. Remember, I told you earlier with my client, I think that he wasn't really leading the interaction and he was kind of just being more reactive to her, showing interest than being more proactive. So you got to be proactive in this case. So that's one of the big reasons you're not being proactive. You're just kind of sitting back. Maybe you're talking to people, maybe you're talking to a girl, but you're just letting her dictate the interaction and you're not moving it forward. It's possible that the girl was just in the moment. I've heard this somewhere. I don't remember exactly where. I think it was from a pickup artist. He said this. He said that women are in the temporary emotions of the moment, right? So they have these temporary emotions. Like in the moment, they're caught up in the emotional fun and she gives you her number. And then for whatever reason, she just didn't feel it the next day. Maybe she was drinking and she's like, no, that's not a guy that I really care about. I was just kind of having fun in the moment, right? So she got caught up in the temporary emotions of the moment. Maybe, she was just excited at the time and she thought that things would go well. And then she kind of forgot you because she's really dating and hooking up with someone else. So she didn't really care and she was just caught up in the temporary emotions of the moment. I can go on and give you a lot of different examples of why she didn't text back, even though it seemed to go well. But you know what? it doesn't really matter. The reasons don't matter because you're not going to be able to do anything with that information. What you need to know and what's going to help you progress and be better with your dating life and your sex life is that you're going to have to just meet a lot of women, do your absolute best, stay in the moment, don't be outcome dependent, and try to talk to lots of women so you have an abundance of women that you're talking to so that if she doesn't text back, you don't care. You don't care because you're working with other women or because you know that nothing is till it is, so you didn't get excited in the first place. So all you can do is continue to lead the interaction, be proactive in the interaction, make sure that you're flirting with her. Make sure, and I talk about this in my Hooked program, I talk about this in the coaching, is that you're displaying the TED, right? So you're doing tension, entertainment, and dominance. Dominance, I already talked about. Moving the interaction forward. Entertainment, you're entertaining yourself in the interaction. Tension, you're building sexual tension. If you can do that and go back and forth between tension, entertainment, dominance, boom, 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 then you will be able to have the optimal chances of attracting a woman and getting that text back. That's all you need to worry about. All right, let's get into some questions. Don't forget, if you have questions, you can email me, trip@tripadvice.com, and you can put in the subject line podcast question. And the more detail you give, the higher chance of me answering on the podcast, because then I can answer it to its fullest ability because I have all the details from you. So why don't we get into it? Let's answer some questions. And don't forget, like I said earlier, if you're interested in getting one-on-one coaching and these podcasts just aren't enough for you, you need that push, that motivation, you need the accountability to be able to get you to go out and meet more women, go to coachedbytrip.com and then I can help you. We can work together, actually get on the phone. You will be talking to me, no other coach, just me, and I'll be guiding you through the whole process of meeting and attracting women in your town. Apply today. There are spaces available right now, coachedbytrip.com. All right, here's a question that came in just a few days ago of the recording of this podcast. It says, "Hi, Trip. Hope all is well. My name is Siddharth Goyal. I'm 22 years old. I've been listening to your podcast for a month now. And by the way, sorry if I completely butchered your name, Siddharth, but he says, I've been listening to your podcast for a month now. I thought I would email now and get some advice. So the situation is as following. I've known this girl, not really friends or anything, just seen her around in high school and university. I always had a crush on her. I recently added her on Instagram and want to start interacting and ask her out for a coffee. I was wondering if it is okay to message, "Hi, how's it going?" and have a few other messages and then ask her out for a coffee. Do you think it's bold or too strong at first? Also, if it landed, fingers crossed, how do you keep the conversation interesting and get her liking me back? I know you have a podcast about conversations, but any other tips to add? Thank you. Okay, so what I'm hearing you saying, what I'm reading here, is that you know this girl, you've had a crush on her. Here's the thing. Already you're doomed. I want to really make this clear. I've been making this clear, by the way, a lot on my YouTube lives that I do every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. I've been making it very clear that the second you are trying to strategize to get one woman, this is a sign that you need more work and more help because you're already entering the scarce mindset. I know there's a lot of argument from guys who say, no, I don't have a scarce mindset. I want other girls, but I just really want her. Well, that's a scarce mindset because, first of all, to strategize to get one girl, just here's the deal. The odds of this working out are very, very, very slim. Most situations I've seen where a guy is trying to strategize to get one girl is very, very, very slim. In order to really succeed at dating, you cannot just try to go for one girl. This is not like the movies. This is reality. And most of the time it doesn't work out because you're really trying to strategize in this way that is unrealistic. Like you're just going to start having a conversation with her and she's going to like you and you're going to ask her out in this case. And she's going to say yes. She's probably going to say no. And I say that because she probably doesn't know you that well. At least this is what I'm hearing from what I'm reading here. You're saying that you just want to say, "Hi, how's it going?" to a girl that you barely know, thinking she's going to respond. And all of a sudden you're going to ask her on a coffee date and you have no skill at conversation. And so you think that even then, when that works out and you get her on a date, that it's going to work out from there on. I'm not trying to diss you, by the way. I'm trying to help you. I'm not trying to say like, oh, you suck. That's not at all. I'm just saying that you're in such a place of beginner that you need more work. And so it's going to be bad for you. Okay. It's going to be bad for you to just try to get this one girl. It's in your best interest to completely forget this girl and try not to just like slide into her DMs and hope for the best, because that's not how attraction works. You need to get in front of her in person. You need to be able to create tension, entertainment, and dominance in person, not over text message. That's not how it works. That's not how our brains are wired to be, okay? But you need to get in person. And if you see her around, if anything, I would approach her. If you see her around, and says that, and you even said you're not friends or anything, but it's okay. If you see her around, you can go and approach her and say, hey, I've been seeing you around, high school before. I see you around university. I never met you yet. What's your name? And then you introduce yourself, and there you have your best chance. Okay. If you're scared to do that, that means that you're already in a place, like I said, beginner, where you need to be going out and meeting more women and approaching more women to get better at this. Because right now, you're not there yet. You're still asking about conversations, which is fine. You just need to be practicing this. So it's probably not going to work out, is what I'm saying. If you just DM her and say, hi, how's it going? It's probably not going to go anywhere. You can try it, but I just think it's a complete waste of your time. I just don't think it's going to do anything for you, because you're going to be so focused on her that you're not going to be building the skill, which you need. And because you don't have it, which is what I'm reading here in between the lines, because you don't have that yet, it's just probably not going to work out. So spend your time and your strategizing for going out and meeting women who are outside of this kind of tunnel vision of girls that you already know. Okay? Don't strategize for that. Instead, just go out, do your approaches, meet women in person, work on the skill, work on your approach anxiety, work on your conversation skills and your flirting skills. You said, I know you have a podcast about conversations. Any other tips to add? That says to me also, and again, I'm not trying to rip you apart here. I'm only trying to help you, but I just got to give you tough love. If you're saying you want more tips when you've already listened to conversation tips, that means you're not using them, okay? Because there's some really good tips here on the podcast. Multiple episodes, by the way. Multiple episodes. But even so, let's say there wasn't multiple episodes, but there's just one episode only about conversations. If you're saying that you've used all that and it's worked, you shouldn't need any more, right? And they will work because they're general conversation tips that work no matter what. So you should be using those and shouldn't ask for more. A lot of guys, they do this, by the way. They keep on listening to more and more podcasts for more answers because they're waiting for something that has more of a magic bullet to it, when really they're just afraid or not using the information that they're given. So stop looking for more information and use the stuff that you are either reading, listening to, whatever it is, okay? So that's my answer there. A lot of good lessons there. Again, not trying to rip you apart here, Siddharth. I just think you should completely ignore it and move on. Some guys might think, well, Trip, it might be just worth it to just slide into her DMs and say that, and it's worth a shot. Why not just throw a Hail Mary? Honestly, still, it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your time. Trust me. Trust me. I've seen this a million times. It's probably not going to go anywhere. Your best bet, like I said, is to not introduce yourself over DM. If you see her around, introduce yourself and approach her. And meanwhile, continue to approach women that you see around campus, okay? You're 22. It sounds like you're still in college. And further advice here, if you're in college, I have to say, try not to even focus on any of that. I know I just give you a whole lot of homework to do here, but if I were you, I would actually focus more on just your studies, because that's going to take you further right now. You can always go back to these podcasts and coaching and my Hooked program and whatever to go out there and implement the stuff you learn. It's always going to be here for you, but take the time to do the studies and do the work, because that's going to take you farther now in this time that you're doing the studies and working on your career, okay? That will wrap up an episode here on the How to Talk to Girls podcast. If you're listening to this in real time, happy almost holidays. We're in the beginning of December now. So, don't forget that the holidays is a great time to go out and do approaches. I'm telling you, women who are single really like to be cuddling and be with a man. It is a very lonely time of the year. So people really want to shack up, winter girls. So go out there, do your approaches. It's always a good time, even if it's a little cold outside. And don't forget also, if you need coaching, you need help, go ahead and fill out the application, coachedbytrip.com, and I will help you, my good friend. Thank you so much again for listening, and I'll see you next time.